Men often fail to understand themselves, yet they boldly claim to understand women. These words were never penned by Plato, but if you dive into his works with an unflinching honesty, you will sense this truth pulsing beneath the surface of his philosophy. Plato never wrote self-help advice for love. He did not concern himself with teaching men how to charm women or win their affection. Instead, he confronted something far more troubling: the blindness of human beings to the hidden forces that govern their own minds. For before a man can chase beauty, before he can surrender to the whispers of romance, Plato diagnosed the real affliction. A mind left untrained becomes the perfect playground for deception. You may recall his allegory of the cave in The Republic. Prisoners chained in the dark, staring at shadows cast upon the wall. Convinced those shadows were real, they worshipped illusions. They built entire lives upon falsehoods crafted by others. Yet, what often escapes notice, what Plato leaves for us to uncover, is that these shadows are not merely political manipulations or social fabrications. No, one of the most powerful illusions cast upon the minds of men is the image of woman herself. Not woman in her true essence, but woman as an idea, a projection, an enchantment carefully shaped to distract, to soften, to enslave emotionally. And it is here that we must look deeper. Plato warned us that the masses will never accept truth when it shines in its raw brilliance. They will fight to preserve their illusions. And among all illusions, none captivates more than the belief that women are innocent beings beyond the reach of manipulation. This is the grand stage where men lose themselves. A woman smiles, and the untrained man calls it love. She sheds a tear, and he declares its sincerity. She touches his hand, and he swears, it is destiny. But Plato would laugh, for to him, this is the behavior of a prisoner refusing to turn toward the light. He lingers in shadows, insisting they are reality. Plato argued that true knowledge begins the moment you realize you know nothing. The first step toward wisdom is to define your terms, he wrote. Yet how many men define women not by their essence, but by the fleeting performances they witness? How many investigate the nature of feminine influence with the same rigor they apply to business, politics, or war? The answer is almost none. And this is precisely why women hold dominion over the emotional lives of men without ever lifting a finger. She does not need to conspire against you, nor must she plot with the cunning of some villainous mastermind. She simply exists as a mirror reflecting the ignorance you refuse to confront within yourself. Plato was right when he warned that the most dangerous deception is self-deception. Men convince themselves that they are rational in matters of love, but they are anything but rational. They remain prisoners, though their chains are not wrapped around their wrists. The shackles grip their minds. And here lies the brutal truth that Plato leaves us with. Women do not manipulate you. It is your illusions of them that do the work. It is the imagined goddess you build in your mind that enslaves you. She smiles, and you collapse. She withdraws, and you chase. You hand her your power and call it devotion. But Plato would caution that those who cling to shadows will never recognize reality when it finally sears their vision. So here you sit, convinced that your heart is pure, your intentions noble, and your love justified. Yet if you could step outside yourself, if you could embody the philosopher Plato demands you to be, you would see a man who has confused shackles for wings, illusion for truth, and manipulation for love. Plato never romanticized the human condition. In Phaedrus, he described the soul as a chariot drawn by two horses, one noble and one wild. The noble horse seeks reason, discipline, and truth. The wild horse craves pleasure, beauty, and temptation, and the charioteer, the human being, is locked in an endless struggle to control them both. This is where most men fail. Each time a woman enters the scene, the wild horse within their soul snaps its reins and bolts forward. It drags them toward her laughter, her scent, her curves, her attention. And the charioteer, weak and untrained, allows himself to be pulled like a fool into his own destruction. He does not question the horse. He does not resist its pull. He baptizes this madness with the phrase, falling in love, while in truth, Plato saw it for what it was, the enslavement of the mind. And if you find value in exploring these hidden battles of the human spirit, consider subscribing and walking this journey with us, as we continue to search for the light beyond the shadows. In the Symposium, Plato described love not as shared happiness, but as a madness sent by the gods. A madness that blinds men, consumes them, and makes them worship the image of beauty while forgetting the essence of what is real. He called it a divine madness. Yes, divine, but madness all the same. And unless you learn to master it, you remain nothing more than a pawn, a slave to fleeting pleasures, a worshipper of shadows. Here comes the ruthless twist. Women know this. Whether consciously or instinctively, they understand that men are governed by this madness. They know the power they hold over a man who has never trained his soul. She does not need to harbor malice in order to undo you. She only needs to exist in your imagination as a prize. You turn her into your purpose, your meaning, your ultimate reward. And once you do that, you no longer see her for what she truly is. You see her as the projection of your own longing. And this, my friend, is the perfect recipe for manipulation. Do you know what Plato feared more than war? The corruption of the soul. He warned that men who cannot govern themselves will inevitably be ruled by others, by tyrants, by orators, by flatterers. And who flatters more skillfully than a woman who knows you crave her approval? She becomes the puppeteer. And you, the eager marionette, dance for her attention, sacrificing your dignity, your purpose, your mission. You imagine she is the one playing the game. But the game began long before she entered your life. The real struggle is within you. It is the war between your higher self and your baser desires. And every time you choose pleasure over principle, illusion over truth, she does not have to defeat you. You defeat yourself. Plato wrote that the just man does not allow the appetitive part of the soul to dominate him. And yet here you are, bargaining with your own emotions like a coward, hoping she will choose you, validate you, complete you. This is the mark of a man who has stepped out of the cave only to construct another one, this time with golden bars and velvet chains. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly questioned why you chase women? When was the last time you asked whether she is leading you closer to truth or dragging you deeper into illusion? Most men never ask, because asking demands courage. It requires admitting that you have been wrong, that you have been deceived, that the stories you tell yourself about love, devotion, and destiny are nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Until you face that reality, until you stand like a philosopher and look directly into the light of truth, you will remain a slave, not to women, but to the idea of women you refuse to question. Plato understood that society is built upon stories, myths designed to keep people obedient to the system. And nowhere is this more evident than in the story men are told about women. You are told they are your better half. You are told they complete you. You are told they hold the key to your happiness. But Plato knew better. In the Republic, he made it clear, the masses must be ruled by those who have seen the truth. The tragedy is that most men never become rulers of their own minds. Allow me to reveal the true structure of the game. Plato saw the human soul as divided into three parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. Reason seeks wisdom and truth. Spirit longs for honor and recognition. Appetite craves pleasure and comfort. Most men, when it comes to women, live entirely in appetite. She smiles, and you feel pleasure. She pays you attention, and you feel validated. She touches your body, and you feel alive. Yet this is the lowest part of your nature. The part Plato warned must be governed by reason, or else it will drag you into ruin. And this is why women hold such terrifying influence over weak men. She does not need to challenge your intellect. She does not need to respect your mission. All she must do is feed your appetite. And you will sell your soul for just one more taste. Like a man lost in the desert, you crawl on your knees, begging for drops of validation, while she stands above you, holding the water you once had the power to create for yourself. You think I exaggerate? Look around. Men betray their families for the touch of a stranger. Men destroy their empires for the approval of a woman who does not respect them. Men end their own lives because she walks away. What clearer proof could you ask for that you are ruled by the lowest part of yourself? Here lies Plato's greatest warning, hidden in plain sight. No man is free who has not mastered himself. If you have not mastered your appetites, your cravings, your hunger for recognition, you are not free. It does not matter how much money you have, how many followers you collect, or how many women you attract. If they can shatter you with a glance, you remain a prisoner. And it goes deeper still. In the Laws, Plato argued that the downfall of a city begins when men allow pleasure to overtake discipline. And what is our modern society, if not a graveyard of men who sacrifice their strength on the altar of female approval? You see it in politics. You see it in religion. You see it in culture. Men bowing, apologizing, submitting not for truth, not for principle, but for fear of losing her. Plato never taught men to hate women. He taught men to see clearly. Women are not your enemy. She is the mirror reflecting the untrained soul you carry within. She plays the game because you invited her to the table, blind, desperate, and unprepared. But you can overturn the board. You can rise from the cave. You can reclaim the throne of your own mind. But only if you dare to confront what most men fear the most: the truth about themselves. Let me tell you what Plato hinted at, but what the modern world refuses to accept. Women test men for one reason alone: to expose the weakness already living inside him. She is not the cause of your collapse. She is the mirror showing you who you truly are when your ego is stripped bare. Plato, in Gorgias, spoke with brutal clarity that it is better to suffer injustice than to commit it. Why? Because the man who commits injustice reveals that he has no command over his desires. And here lies the irony that most men never grasp. When you chase a woman, when you trade away your values, betray your mission, and beg for her approval, you are not serving love. You are committing an injustice against your own soul. You think you are fighting for her. You think you are sacrificing for something noble. But in reality, you are violating yourself. Plato taught that the greatest harmony a man can achieve is to govern himself with reason, to align his actions with truth rather than temptation. And yet, look at how society programs you to betray this law. You are told to fight for her, to never give up on love, to prove you are a real man by sacrificing everything for her approval. But Plato warned of this very manipulation in The Republic. He called it the rule of the masses by persuasive flatterers. And who flatters your illusions more skillfully than the woman who feeds your ego while you abandon your mind? You see, women have learned, whether consciously or not, that a man addicted to validation will always be easy to control. She does not need to use logic. She does not need to defeat you in argument. She only needs to look into your eyes and make you feel like a king, and you will do the rest. You will tear yourself apart for her attention, convinced you are pursuing love, when in reality, you are chasing your own emotional enslavement. Plato was not speaking only of individual men. He warned that entire civilizations collapse when men trade discipline for pleasure. He saw the pattern in the downfall of Athens. He watched leaders abandon principle to satisfy the crowd, just as modern men abandon their souls to satisfy women. The disease is the same. The disease of the untrained soul always ends the same way, with ruin. But Plato also offered the cure. He taught that the highest purpose of a man is to pursue the good, to climb out of the cave, to face the light even when it blinds you, even when it burns away everything you once believed to be real. And this is the step most men will never take. They will never dare to look at a woman, not as a goddess, not as a curse, but as a mirror. A mirror showing their uncontrolled desire, their fragile ego, their desperate need to be seen. Do you have the courage to face that reflection? Do you have the strength to stand firm, not as a beggar, not as a slave, but as a man who first governs himself? Because until you do, you will always be manipulated. You will always be caught in the game because you refuse to master the player within you. And when you finally see this, when you finally stand in the light that Plato spoke of, you will never look at women the same way again. Most men live in constant fear of losing a woman's favor. But Plato teaches you to fear something far worse, the loss of your own soul. In Phaedo, he wrote, "The soul takes on the character of the actions it pursues." In other words, if you spend your life chasing validation, your soul becomes weak. If you elevate her attention to your highest aim, your soul shrinks into something small, ordinary, unworthy of greatness. Let me make this even clearer. Every time you bend your values to keep her, every time you silence the truth to please her, every time you sacrifice your mission for her emotions, you are not loving her. You are betraying yourself. And Plato leaves no doubt. Self-betrayal is the root of all injustice. Why do you think tyrants rise? Why do you think civilizations collapse? Because men refuse to govern themselves. Because men would rather serve pleasure than truth. Because men would rather chase shadows than face the light. And women, whether knowingly or instinctively, test men to expose this very weakness. She pushes your boundaries to see if you will hold your ground. She withdraws her affection to see if you will beg. She challenges your beliefs to see if you will betray them just to keep her near. And every time you surrender, she loses respect for you, because deep down, she knows that a man who cannot rule himself cannot rule anything, not his life, not his future, not his legacy. Plato described the perfect ruler as the philosopher king, a man who has mastered his soul, a man who seeks truth above all else, a man unmoved by the games of the crowd. If you can look into her eyes and see not a goddess, not an enemy, but a mirror. If you can reclaim your power, not with hatred, not with bitterness, but with clarity, you will become what Plato called the just man, the ruler of himself. And the man who rules himself cannot be manipulated, cannot be destroyed, cannot be toyed with. So, here is my challenge to you. Stop chasing shadows. Stop worshipping illusions. Stop trading your soul for temporary affection. Rise up, look into the mirror, confront the parts of yourself you have been too afraid to face. And when you do, you will no longer fear the games women play, because you will have outgrown the need to play them. If this message has sparked a fire in your soul, if it has awakened you in ways you did not expect, do not let it end here. Take a moment right now to like this video, share it with a man who needs to hear these words, and subscribe to this channel. We are building a brotherhood of men who refuse to live in darkness, men who dare to rule their minds, their lives, and their destinies. Support us by following the link in the description. Join us on this journey toward truth, mastery, and freedom. Because the world does not need more men chasing illusions.